Oh, Maciej. Hi, Maciej.
Okay, we're going live in a second. All right, perfect.
Oh, Maciej. Hi, Maciej.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Mujan Askari. I'm the founder and CEO of Thousand Eyes on Me. Thousand Eyes on Me, you might know it is actually a personal branding and talent development platform for women and gender minorities in order to help them to become strong, authentic leaders. So for that, we have a program that covers most of the areas that any successful leader needs to have, starting with self-leadership, and then personal branding and storytelling, and then we go a lot into communication. So we cover public speaking, writing and publishing, digital marketing, and negotiation. That's why actually today we are with Basha to help you learn how to negotiate and get what you deserve. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Basha, and then I'm going to give the stage to her. So Basha Kubiska, she is the co-founder and CEO of SliceUp, which is a tech startup based in Boston. She has over 10 years experience in negotiation, especially in the male-dominated industries. She's also from Poland. So I would like to invite Basha on the stage, and Basha, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Can I share my screen?
Of course.
Great. I will do that then. Can you wait a second? Present. There you go. Can you see it?
I see I see your page. I see the document.
There you go. Wait, it's not presenting.
You can click on the present. Go out. Yes, exactly.
All right. So again, thank you so much for this invitation. My name is Basha, and I'm a co-founder of SliceUp. I moved to Boston. Currently, I'm living in Boston, where I moved about a year ago from Poland. After we got selected as one of the top 10 most promising companies, we got selected by Techstars Air Force Accelerator, and ever since I stayed here. Before that, I was running a company in Poland, in Krakow, that was in real estate, where I was negotiating deals with land developers. And so, given that that all gives me over 10 years of experience in sales and negotiations, so being exposed to all that taught me how to communicate as an expert and be perceived as an expert, especially in a situation where you are young, still not really experienced, and you have to show up and be able to communicate clearly and precisely and effectively. So I cannot also emphasize how big role mentorship has played in this whole journey. So that's why today I'm also doing workshops for women, helping them get better in their communication skills and live the lives on their terms. And there is, you will learn plenty of negotiation tactics and different skills that one of my best mentors and friends as well has taught me over years. His name is Alex, and I'm happy to give you more information about him. He's a very inspirational person. And so I will finish with that. And so basically today's session is going to be about negotiations, and specifically about salary raise negotiation. And can you get a guarantee, like when you learn all these tricks and all the salary, all the negotiation tactics, does it guarantee you a success? Well, not really. So why are you even here, right? There are two reasons. One of them is being the preparedness gives you the much higher chance of actually succeeding. It's not guaranteed, but it increases your chances a lot. And then the second reason is after you're done with your negotiation, you can answer yourself yes to the question, did I prepare and did I do everything I could? So with that said, let's talk a little bit about the agenda. So we'll cover today what are the two most common negotiation mistakes that most of us do, and how can you later address them and so that you communicate more like an expert. And then we'll jump into the role play. So I'll ask one of you to volunteer and sit on a hot chair with me where we'll be negotiating your salary raise. So when I first ever started being interested in negotiations, one of my mentors told me 51% of every negotiation happens before it even started. And what he meant by this, basically, you always have to prepare. And you have to at least spend the same amount of time as you will spend on the interview. But this is the very least. Most of people under-prepare. So in this specific situation, when we talk about salary negotiations, there is plenty of books and plenty of online material on how you can prepare best for your interview. So I'm not going to cover this extensively. I will just quickly go through them. So first of all, you have to know what you can ask for, which is do your research, what's the salary range for this specific job that you're applying for, and the skill set that you have. What's the compensation and benefits package that this specific company can offer, right? Different companies will be offering different things. And also plenty of companies, especially big ones, their compensation and benefits packages are policy driven, which means that for this specific job, you may not even have room for further negotiation, and that will require already changing the job title and the scope. So you have to be aware of that and do your research so that you come prepared. Second most important thing to know is know what you want. So what's the minimum base salary that you can accept? And what are the other benefits that that you want, right? Like what are the other things that you can negotiate and you can ask for, as well as the things that you are willing to sacrifice? Is it, for example, that you have to have 2 days of working from home because you have a small child? Or is it that you want to have more holiday for whatever reason? Maybe your partner is abroad, so you have to have this flexibility to travel more often. Whatever it is, make sure you do your homework and be prepared for answering that questions and knowing where is your boundary. And the last thing is, which we'll cover the most today, is practice and role play. So a friend of mine, he was recently preparing for a very difficult 6 hours interview at the very high level job at one of the top tech companies. And he spent 2 days to gather the intelligence from all his friends that work at this company, and also gather the intelligence from other people working at similar companies, to make sure he has the information advantage and know what type of questions he can expect. How can he best answer them so that he comes prepared? Then he also had a list of questions that he wanted to ask himself. So know exactly what you want to say, how you're going to say it, and be prepared for different questions. And what it gives you is actually the confidence that you need. So when you know that you came prepared, there is nothing that can really surprise you. So you have the confidence with which you can come to this negotiation, and this confidence will speak through your body language and with what you say, and people will notice that you came prepared. So that's about the preparation. Again, one of the top common mistakes that I see is people under-prepare for their negotiations, assuming that it will be okay. So the mentor I mentioned at the very beginning, Alex, he told me once, don't say anything unless you have to. I love this quote, and there is so much truth to that. And there is, like, he immediately followed up with the analogy that he gave. So if you think of a soldier during the war, or if you go into play paintball, right? As long as you are hidden, you're in the trenches or you're hidden behind the wall, you're safe. The moment you stand up, you expose yourself and people can attack you. When you're hidden, you can attack others, right? And this is exactly the same in a communication, where the moment you speak a lot, that gives the other person opportunity. There is a higher chance that you will say something that you will later regret. This is something that someone can use against you later during this negotiation. Even if it's a small detail, this can be used against you later. And also, the more you speak, the less you learn about the other person and about their problems and their challenges, which means that you have less competitive advantage in this negotiation. So again, try not to talk too much, listen more. Well, when we talk specifically about salary negotiations or job interviews, it's obvious that interviewer will be asking you plenty of questions. However, again, be prepared with the questions you want to ask them, and make sure that you also ask them back certain things. So to cover that, so now, how do you communicate then? What do you do? How does the expert communicate so that you don't make these mistakes, right? So there is certain things that I will briefly cover now, and just give you more detailed examples in a second. So as an expert, you don't want to talk about yourself, because in the end, no one really cares about what you think. Everyone, whenever you come to any negotiation or sales, everyone has a question in their head: what's in it for me? So remember that each time you go to any type of negotiations, and so you want to talk about them and about the facts. The facts are much harder to argue with. The moment you start talking about what you think, what you believe, what you trust, this gives the opportunity for the other person to argue with you that maybe your thoughts and beliefs are not necessarily true. The expert does not assume either, they clarify. So whenever there is a room for assumption, they immediately follow up with a question, so that you can make very informed decision and also provide the best possible answer to a specific question. The expert also leads the conversation, which is you lead the conversation in two ways: by asking questions and giving orders. So we may put aside the giving orders part for now, but asking questions is extremely powerful, because that opens up the other person to talk more. And this is the time when you don't say anything unless you have to, right? So let's talk about each of these points one after another in more detail. So I will give you some examples. Let's compare these two sentences. I believe similar roles are paid between X and Y in the market, versus based on the market research, similar roles are paid between X and Y. So the difference here is the second sentence, the second statement, talks about facts. Even if you convey the same message, you want to tell someone that the market price is between X and Y, the way you say it really matters, because again, it's much harder to argue with the data. If you present something as facts, as data, it's way more harder to say, I disagree. If you say, I believe, or I think, then they can say, well, you know, I think otherwise, or I don't care what you think, right? That even if they don't say it out loud, it will be in their head. So that's one of the examples. The other example, slightly more, slightly longer. I feel like I am doing my work really well, but others on my team with similar skill set make 10% more than I do. I was wondering if I could get also 10% more. So this statement is all about I, and my needs and wants. Versus if you present something in terms of facts and benefits to the other side, it has, even if you say the same thing, even if the message is the same, it actually is received differently. So here's another example. given all the extra work I've done, which is X and Y, you can now name it, as well as the fact that other people in the same position make on average 10%. So notice the difference, as well as the fact that, so we're talking about the facts, not just my observation, but other people on my team, right? What can be done to compensate it so that it's fair and justified? So it's not, I was wondering if I could also, whatever, it's more what can be done. So we are opening up the floor to exploration and conversation now with the other side, right? And it's, again, it's not about your wants or needs or whatever you think or believe. It's about the facts. What can be done to compensate so that it's fair and justified? It's way more powerful. Now, let's talk about clarifying. So plenty of us, we just, whenever we're presented with certain, what we think is fact, we immediately assume this is what it is, and we don't dig deeper. And I'm doing this, you're doing this, I bet we keep doing that all the time in our life. However, when you're in a high-stake negotiation, you have to be your ears have to be really tuned to that. So what I mean by this is, I'll give you an example. So if someone says, oh, you just said, okay, I want to make 100,000, and someone says, well, it's too much, or you're too expensive, or whatever. The immediate reaction people get is, what about 90,000, right? So you try to step back, like back out from your sentence, because you're immediately, like, you fear that, you know, like you will just lose this negotiation in a second. Where the truth is, it's really hard to actually, you would have to say, well, if it's too much, then goodbye, right? Like this would be the definite way to finish this negotiation. But what you can do is actually try to understand what's behind this message. So there is an assumption, it's too much, but it can mean many different things. It can mean that they don't have a budget right now, but maybe in the future they will. Or it can mean that, well, they've compared on the market and it seems like what you're asking is really too much. Or it can mean that they just simply try to negotiate because everyone wants to get a better deal, right? So try to figure this out. And the easiest way to do that is simply asking, what exactly do you mean by that, right? So you're staying in the game, you keep negotiating. Another example, so after that, they can say, well, we don't have a budget right now. What's the assumption here? So they said, like, assuming they said right now, does it mean that they will have it in the future, right? Just because they don't have it right now, it does not necessarily mean they will not have it in the future. So what you can do, so in negotiations, very rarely it's actually one last sentence or one closing that will actually turn the whole negotiation around. And, you know, like you're just, the whole notion of closing deals, right? This does not work that way. It's a compound effect of all the little things you do along the way, and little things that, you know, like you just get someone out of balance, so that the moment they're unbalanced, it's much harder for them to operate. So what we're doing here, if you look at the way you can answer that type of objection, right? What can we do to make sure that when you have a budget, you'll set some aside for that salary raise that we both know I deserve, right? Because if they told you we don't have budget right now, you make the assumption now. If they don't have the budget right now, they didn't say, oh, because you don't deserve it, which means that they probably think you deserve it. So try to state it so that it's very hard for them to actually bounce back, right? So those are the little things that you can just be aware of, and also be aware of when people use it on you. And one disclaimer, just please make sure you use it in an ethical way. Don't use it in unethical situations. Now, the third point on this list was the experts, they lead the conversation by asking questions. So I want to give you here an example, because asking questions is one thing, but asking the right questions is the other thing, right? So let's have a look at these 4 examples and break them down. do you have flexibility? So like if you will notice, I'm still asking about the same thing, but in different ways. Do you have flexibility versus I was wondering if you have flexibility versus what kind of flexibility do you have, or are you willing to negotiate? It's still the same thing, asking about how flexible they are about the salary. But the first type of question is a closed-ended question, is a yes or no type of question. When you ask this type of question, you have to be careful because you may get a no. And then you're in a difficult spot, right? So closed questions, they are good for very specific situations, but most of the cases you want to reframe them in open-ended questions. The second example is, I was wondering if you have flexibility. And this is the exact same thing as I was mentioning to you at the earlier about, I was wondering, I think, I believe, right? Like it weakens whatever comes after, because it's about what you think, it's not about facts. So just be aware of how often do you use this type of phrases. Now, the third example, what kind of flexibility do you have? This is an open-ended question, right? And now what it does, it's inviting the other person to explore with you the possibilities, right? Because there may be plenty. And the moment you ask, do you have flexibility? You close all these options. But what kind of flexibility do you have? You can find yourself in a situation when you suddenly maybe they don't have flexibility for giving you a higher base salary, but maybe they can do the magic with the bonus that you get each year, or maybe you can get more like lower scope, or maybe you can just work 4 times a day, 4 times a week instead of 5. So that gives you an opportunity to get some extra cash from your side project, right? So there is plenty of other opportunities that you can't dismiss. Because very often when we come to this type of negotiations, we're just fixated on this base salary, and that's the only thing we want to negotiate. Just be flexible, and when you do your homework and you prepare, you know what you're willing to sacrifice and what other things are important to you. So the last example is, are you willing to negotiate? The same yes or no question, very direct, and you can just end up in a not a great spot. With that in mind, oh yeah, there is one more example of leading conversation by asking questions. So this is more just to give you some examples of the questions you may want to consider when you have salary raise negotiation. How do you like all these extra things that I've accomplished, right? So the extra things that you're bringing up to the table, basically. So the question we're asking here is not, do you like, because they can say no. How do you like? This is already an assumption that they do like it. Now we just need to figure out how much. It looks like the difference in our expectations for the base salary is, for example, $10,000. How else can we compensate it, right? So again, you're opening up to the conversation, right? The current offer is a great starting point. What can we do to make sure that the 2 remaining items are resolved? So if you came to a good, satisfying offer and there is still 2 things that you really want, you just ask, what can we do to make sure that these other 2 things are also resolved, right? Instead of, hey, I want them, just ask the question. So one more thing that is extremely powerful, and this is a little anecdote, use pauses and silence. And this is such a powerful tool that is extremely difficult, because in a stressful situation, you will find yourself just not being able to hold this silence, this awkward silence when no one is talking and someone has to break it, right? So now it's a kind of competition, a race, who breaks the pause first. So I was once negotiating a real estate deal, and I came to the guy, and just for the purpose of this exercise, let's make it easy. He said 100,000 for whatever real estate was. And I just did, And because I didn't know anything about the guy yet, we didn't have much time to talk. You could tell he was desperate to sell it. So he said, all right, 90,000. I didn't even manage to say way more because I was just processing. And then he's like immediately, all right, 80,000 and we're done. And I was like looking at him, it was already a very good deal and it was way under the market. And I was like, all right, let's do it, right? So I did not say anything during this negotiation. So don't say anything unless you really have to, because this can be a powerful tool. So the silence can make the interviewer either share valuable information, because again, people don't like this awkward silence, so they will keep talking. Restate their position as the person in my little anecdote did, or they'll try to guess what's in your head and what's your position, right? So whatever it is, you gain extremely valuable intelligence and competitive advantage in this negotiation. So keep that in mind. And now we'll jump to the role play use case. And so I would like to invite one person who would like to do the role play use case with me.
Great, let's do it. So if anybody is interested, you can write in the chat shotgun. So the first person will be promoted, and I'm going to add you as a panelist here. 1, 2, 3, go.
So anyone?
Don't worry. But Basia pays, very well salary, so you don't have to, be scared of the negotiation.
It's a practice. So especially if you're really a beginner and you have no idea what you're doing, you'll really contribute to all the other participants, because the more mistakes you'll do, the more we all learn. So even like the more scared you are, the better. So I highly recommend that, and you will learn and everyone will learn as well. And there is really no mistakes. We all do them, and I'm not I'm not the one who does not make any mistakes. So I admit that. So
right. So if nobody says, I'm gonna choose somebody. So either you run away, or you're going to choose yourself. All right. So what about you, Nusha? Yes, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna promote you as a panelist. All right.
Great.
So are you able to share your camera and mic? Otherwise, maybe I have to give you access here. Hold on. Okay.
Hello.
You can share your camera now, I think.
Okay.
Right.
Ouch. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about my hair.
All right, I'm gonna get out, so I leave you here.
You look wonderful. So
yeah.
So the use case. So let's talk about the use case for a moment. So basically, imagine that you are what do you do?
I'm a designer.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's take the data scientist for a moment out of the equation. Let's say you're a designer. So you've been working as a designer. Would you say it's more a junior or senior job?
It's gotta be junior.
All right. So you're a junior at this company, and you've been working there for a year now, and you basically you feel like you could have been paid more, and so you've done your research, and you know that you're getting paid $100,000 a year now. That's your base salary. And you've done your research, and you know that people with similar skill set, in similar companies, they make anything from $100,000 to $120,000. So you're in the lower band. And you also know that people on your team, they're making $110,000 to $115,000. So you also have made a significant progress during the last year, and you also contributed to the project Butterfly that was hugely successful, and that was plenty of credit is to you. So you made this company a lot of money. And so you already sent an email to your manager that you want to speak to them about promotion or salary rates. And you believe that you should be making about 115,000, which is the upper band of the market standard and also the upper band of what your other team members are making.
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions?
No.
All right, so let's start then, and let's just jump right in. So let's imagine now I got your email, I'm your manager, and so we're meeting now, probably on Zoom, and so we have to start the conversation. And so there is a small chat that we can just do very quickly and then just jump right into the negotiation part.
Okay. So I start?
I'll start. Hey, Nisha, thank you so much for dropping this email. And tell me, what is it that you wanted to talk about specifically?
So the thing is that like we had a project, and like beside the usual project that I do, like the result of the butterfly project was really good, and it was a successful project. And I'm not sure, because like can I ask something? Because like based in the like a contract, I think like you have some there's an amount of person that if the project is successful, you get more salary, or they add it to your salary. So I can mention that I know that this project was successful, and based on the contract, or the before that we talked, I know that I have to get that amount of the person, and yeah, I can ask what's the can you explain me the detail of how you calculate that, and if there was something about the project that made you to just cut that person. Yeah.
Sure, that's a great start, and I appreciate that. So one thing I forgot to mention, so how we'll go actually is that I'll be cutting every few minutes. So probably after each sentence that you'll be saying, I would like to actually open the floor to ideas. I don't know, maybe the chat would be, I can't see the chat though for some reason. So that other people can also be more engaged. Oh, there you go. I can see it now. So the idea is to basically, so that we can all learn. And so, I'll be cutting you, and then we'll be giving you some other ideas how we can say certain things, and how, I don't know if it's better, you may like it or you may not, you may agree or disagree with me, and that's something that my experience tell it's working. So one thing I wanted to immediately kind of bring up is whenever you're starting the conversation, you want to, as an expert, you try to give them a frame of the conversation, the purpose of the conversation. So that gives you a huge leverage and the tool that if for some reason the conversation starts to deviate from the main topic, and they change the topic for whatever reason because they feel uncomfortable or whatever, you have the tool now. If they agreed to the topic that you suggested, you have the tool to say, hey, this is a great topic. Let's set it aside for a different conversation, and let's get back to the main topic that we've agreed to. How does that sound, right? So you have the tool. That's why you want to try to be as specific as you can in this very first sentence. So that's one thing. The second thing is you may want to give them some idea. Let's start with this. So why don't we just say something like, So hi, thank you for your time. And the purpose, so basically given that, so you can give them two items that they can quickly check in their head, so that builds trust. And so, for example, you can say, given that I've been working in this company for a year now, and the project I've contributed to has been a huge success, and my contribution to this project made it a huge success. You can even sell yourself further. The purpose of this conversation is to explore if and how all this extra work that I've done can be compensated so that it's fair and justified, right? How does that sound? Does it make sense?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, like actually one of my problems is I don't know how to start, so yeah.
So think of it like each time when you think of a conversation, think of what's the goal of this conversation that you want to get, and they can be like very different. So for the salary negotiation, you probably the goal is to actually verify and explore or agree if and how we can compensate all the extra work that I've done. Because one thing to remember also, people very often think that if they do their job well enough, they should get promoted, or like they should get salary raise just because they've been doing their work well, right? Whereas for a company, like they just come to the table and they just say, like, oh, I need more money because I want to buy myself a house or whatever. No one cares about your needs and wants, because the salary raise comes with the very measurable and quantifiable results that you bring to the company, not what you want or what your dreams are, right? So you have to always tie it up with the very specific results that you brought to the table and how you've grown and how you actually, the skills that you can now bring to the table that you haven't had a year ago. You want to talk about all this delta, right? The difference. So when you agreed to a certain job offer, you agreed to be paid for certain tasks that you're doing for a very specific amount, right? And if you kept doing whatever you've been paid for and you kept doing it well, that's the skill set they already paid you for, and that's why they hired you, right? If you didn't do any progress over the year, then there is no reason why they should actually give you extra money. So you have to be prepared whenever you get ready for a salary negotiation. You want to list the things that were outside of your scope. How did you contribute to certain projects that were outside of the original scope of your job offer? What skills have you improved, or new skills that you've acquired that actually qualify you for the next level, right? So when you compare with other peers in your group, in your team, you can actually have a very measurable data. So again, let's try to figure out this beginning again. So why don't we start from the top? So hi Nusha, great to see you. So I got your email. What would you like to talk about?
Hi, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, like the subject that I want to talk about is that, as you know, like recently we had a project, like butterfly project. We had a huge success in the project. And the thing that I want to talk about is that I want to I don't know.
I'll make a few comments here. So you started from the subject I want to talk about is the butterfly project. As you know, we made a huge success. So you don't want to really talk about butterfly project. You want to talk about your salary raise, right?
Mm.
So you want to bring this up in a conversation, but that's not the purpose and not the goal of the conversation. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Then the other thing is, if you say I wanted to talk about, you talk about yourself, right?
Oh.
And you actually take out, it's not always possible, so don't get me wrong, but whenever it's possible, try not to talk about yourself, because again, it's about your wants, your needs that are not necessarily what people care about. So you can say again, given that or as you know, I'm working in this company for a year now. That's a fact, right? And the contribution, you're talking about contribution, not about like I made the contribution, but the contribution I've made, it's a slight difference, but you're talking now about the contribution. That's the main character here, right? So the contribution that I've made to Butterfly project made this company a lot of money, and also let me develop certain skills, whatever. So given all that, the purpose of this call or of this conversation, so what I did here is, it's not I wanted to talk about with you about blah blah, but the purpose of this call is, right, so it's suddenly you take the person out of the equation. So you talk about facts again. The purpose of this call is to figure out if and how we can compensate all this extra work so that it's fair and justified. How does that sound?
Okay. And like, okay, when I ask this, then like we have to negotiate the amount of the salary. So how do we do that? Like, okay, like they understand that. Okay, like then we have to negotiate about the price.
So we'll get into it in a second. So you have to start somewhere, and then we'll get into the details in a second.
Okay.
So far, or it's confusing?
No, it's fine.
All right. So basically, all right. So basically, you said such a thing, right? Like again, again, what we've done here is we gave few facts at the beginning that are stated not as I think I did whatever, but as facts, right? So as you know, I've been working here for a year, and the contribution that I've made to Project Butterfly made this company a lot of money. So given that the purpose of this call is to figure out how we can compensate all this extra work that I've done so that it's fair and justified. And then you end up with a question. So again, you always want to lead the conversation, so you follow up with the question afterwards. How does that sound, right? So they immediately have to answer. So, okay, so let's try to say that again, and then we'll see where it goes.
Okay, so like, thank you so much for your time. And as you know, it's been 1 year that since I was working in the company, and I contributed in the different projects, and I'm saying too much. I brought I brought success and different. I learned different skills, and I went.
And given that the purpose.
Given that the purpose.
The purpose of this call is to.
Given that the purpose of the call is to negotiate about.
Is to figure out, because negotiate is kind of like, it has a kind of negative meaning. People don't like to negotiate, but you want to explore, figure out, right? Like it's more an invitation to discussion rather than, hey, now it's me against you, because that's what negotiation in most of people's heads mean.
Okay, it's to figure out about the salary, about the.
It's figure out how we can compensate. So
yeah.
Right? How we can compensate all this extra stuff.
Okay, how we can compensate all these different extra tasks.
So yeah, all this extra, all this different stuff, all these extra things you have to, you want to highlight it's extra, right? Additional.
Yeah.
So not, yeah. So you want to emphasize that, so that it's fair and justified for both of us. You can even say, right?
Yeah. Okay. So how does it sound?
Exactly. Great. Well, so do you just want a salary raise?
Yes.
All right. So here's an interesting way to approach that. What if you said, because if you say yes, it's like it's an awkward situation, right? If you say, well, it doesn't really matter what I want. What matters is what's fair and justified. Suddenly, we're not talking about my wants and needs, but the facts. What's fair and justified, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah. So I say like it doesn't matter what I want. It matters like what's fair. What's fair. Okay.
Exactly. So you say, so if I say, hey, so you just want a salary raise, basically, and your answer to that may be, well, you know, it doesn't really matter what I want, but it's more about what's fair and justified. And based on the market research, the average, the salary range for this type of job and the skill set that I have is between 100, it starts from 100 up to 140 or 120, and so how much flexibility do you have? You can ask, right, like later, how much flexibility do you have?
I think there's a question.
Oh, can we please do the role play for a software engineer position in a new company after this one? Sure. So, hi there.
Do you want I promote you, Steve, to the panelist if you want to role play it?
Or shall we finish first with this
Oh,
one?
okay. Sorry, I don't know if we were finished. Okay, let's finish this one and then we can try that. Yeah.
Great, awesome. All right, so let's start from, okay, so you just want a salary raise.
No, it's not about what I want. It's about what is fair and what is justified. And about based on the market research, the salary base is around like I know what's the amount, but like I give the range of the salary.
So, yeah, based on the market research, the salary range for this type of job and this skill set that I have starts from 100 up to 140 or more, you can even say, so that, you know, like it's unlimited options. And so what you're doing here is you're not talking about your, so if you said, based on given my skill set, the salary range I should get is between this and that, you're talking about general things, right? Like based on the market research, generally for this type of job, for this specific market, on this and this specific skills, starts from up to, or is between, the range is between this and that. So you're talking about now the range of the market, not your personal range, right? So it's really powerful because it's again about facts, not about your needs and wants. So now you can ask the question, how flexible are you, or what type of flexibility do you have?
You ask me what flexibility I have?
No, like you can ask me, right?
I
like
ask.
Yeah. So after that you can say, you know, like you can say basically, because your manager will know you're making 100 right now, but you know that, you know, like this is the market range. What type of flexibility do you have, right?
Okay, so what type of flexibility do you have?
So my question to that can be like, I will be the most difficult manager on the planet, and I will say, well, Misha, you really know that we don't have a budget for that right now. What would you say to that?
So yeah, so like if you're saying like right now about the budget, so if it's gonna like you're gonna have a budget like I don't know, like in 6 months or like next year, how about to negotiate? How about to talk about that like when you know like you're gonna have more budget?
So that's exactly the way you want to think about that. Now let's try to say that in a more more direct way, more crisp and clear and precise way. So when someone says that, like, oh, I don't have a budget, what can we do to make sure that when this budget arises, when the budget is there, I get this salary, the salary raise that we both know, you can say we both know, that I deserve, right? Does it make sense?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, I think I lost my connection. Can you please repeat it? I think I didn't hear your question.
So when I say when I say, well, we don't have a budget for it right now, you can say, sure, I understand. So you want to be a human and you want to, you know, like show your empathy and understanding. So this is another thing. Whenever you can't agree with something, try to understand, right? Even if you can't agree, because you don't want to say, oh, I agree. You want to say, well, I understand, it's different. I understand. So what can we do to make sure that when the budget is there, I get this salary raise that we both agree that I deserve, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so
You can, go on.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that you don't have the budget now, but what do you think, like, when you get the time that you get the budget, I can have the amount of the salary that I deserve? We can
or you can give me, right? Like, so I can have the salary, or you can give me the salary. So what can we do to make sure that when the budget is there, you can give me this salary raise that I deserve? So I probably said before, that's my mistake, that I did say I can get, but now that I think about it, you can even adjust it, right? So all right, so I can say, well, you know what, you just keep doing whatever you're doing, and we can review it half a year from now. How does that sound?
I'm sorry, I think my connection is really bad that I can't hear well.
Can anyone else hear me? Or it's my connection? Oh, I can hear you, Mucha. We can hear you perfectly.
How does it work?
Okay, now I can hear
Okay,
you.
perfect. Yeah. Okay. If it's okay, maybe I can take over if Nusha's connection is not working.
Sure. So thank you so much. And you were great. You did a great job.
Okay. So let me just 1 second.
Sure, take your time. So Nusha, I wanted to say a huge thank you, because I know it's a difficult spot to be in and it's very stressful. So great job.
Okay, she's on mute. All right. I don't know if you have more time to do another role play. What do you suggest us to do, Basha? Do you want to do like a short one, or?
We can try just start and then see where it goes. I don't know how other people feel, if people want to stay online or.
So we had a message earlier from Steve, who wanted to have a role play for an software engineering position.
So I can suggest two things, depending on how the rest of the crowd feels. I can take it offline with Steve, and Steve, I can give you my email and we can just do it one-on-one. unless the rest of the people are, unless the rest of the crowd wants to stay and listen and you find it valuable, then we can continue. So what do you say?
Okay. Yes, so actually people are saying that they're interested to listen. So maybe we can have another like short role play if that's okay. And Basha, you can write your maybe email also in the chat, so those who need to leave, they can contact you back.
There you go. Feel free to reach out, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to do the role play with you or answer questions. So.
All right, great. So maybe we can do another role play if you want. I'm volunteer.
So, but was Steve?
I don't know. Steve hasn't responded. So Steve, if you're available and you want to do the role play, or anybody else, please write it in the chat. Otherwise, if anybody wants to listen, oh, okay, Steve is there. All right, Steve. So I'm gonna promote you now as a panelist. Just give me 1 second to find you. All right. So we've got Steve. All right, so I'm gonna now. All right. So Steve, you can, let me just, you can now share your video also if you want.
Hey, hi. Let me just. Hi. Sorry, this is my dummy account. So I was logged in from a dummy account. I'm Naman, by the way. So.
It's great to meet you.
Hi.
So tell me about the use case you would like to practice.
So let's talk about like, let's say if I'm like switching my company from currently where I'm working at to a new place.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I go about, like, negotiations, and how do I talk to them about, especially when it comes to the money part?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I talk about, like, if not, like, regarding the base salary, how can I negotiate with other things, like, maybe an extra day off, as you said, or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So let's just jump right in, I guess, and we can skip the part of the interview and they just test your skills and stuff like this, I guess. And
Got
right,
it.
yeah, does it make sense?
Yeah, let's assume like they have tested the skills, and I've cleared all the interviews, and they really like my profile. So next step would be that HR round, I guess, right? Maybe dev extra.
So I don't know what company you're actually, if it's a small company, then probably they don't even have HR. If it's a top tier tech companies, then probably there is certain steps and there is certain procedures that I'm not aware of, and I can't answer.
All right, so it's like if it's a mid-sized company, even small companies do have one rep for them, and especially I think big companies like big tech companies, they do have HR reps, right? And even startups do have it. Like I think there'll be one representative. Even it's like very small company, the co-founders themselves talk. Like let's say they're starting up, so there will be someone to talk to, right? Regarding this.
I'm just not sure if it's HR or some other human that you'll be negotiating with. So depending on the role, that's what I was trying to get. So, all right, so let's assume this. All right, so Steve, what's your salary expectation?
All right, so I did my market research, and I'm very humble about it. I'm not after making, like, I'm not after money as such. I want to create an impact, but I don't want to like settle less than what I am getting from the market as well. So I think you are the best person to answer this question.
All right, so here's a few things. So the stuff that we covered before. So why don't we try to take I of the equation? Because I get that you don't care about money as much, and like you want to create the impact, but no one will believe that story, and everyone knows that everyone wants to make them like as much as they can, right? So so you just so one thing you can say is let me think. because I did not prepare for that, but well, one thing you can say is like, for example, great question. And to give you the good answer to that, we would have to better understand what's the rest of compensation package. What else are you offering in addition to base salary? Right, so you can just kind of you can start from this, and the reason I'm saying that, as an expert, whenever you're negotiating as an expert or selling anything, what you're trying to do is you're like a doctor, and what I'm saying by that is your job is to examine the situation of this person or this company, so that you can provide the best possible. Sorry. I don't have water nearby, so that you can provide the best possible solution for their specific needs, right? And in this situation, you're doing exactly the same. So they've just got to know you. They have enough information on your skills and what you can, what you bring to the table. They like you. And now for you to actually define what's the best salary that you can get, you have to understand what are the other benefits, because it may turn out that, you know, like they can offer you a huge bonus or sign-on bonus, for example. So one of the things when you're changing companies, you want to also do the math of what's the sign-on bonus that you're actually leaving behind in order to join them. And that's a great negotiation strategy, because you can just come to them and say, hey, so in order for me to make this decision, I need this much, right? This is my minimum sign-on bonus, because otherwise I'm just leaving it behind, like I'm just leaving it on the table. This is not really what you know, like what you want. So this is one of the things that you want to be prepared with. But when you negotiate the base salary, one thing you may want to do is, again, start from like all the different parts of the compensation package. Understand, okay, so what the exact scope of the role is, if you haven't discussed that yet, right? Like what the exact scope is, what's the expectations, how many days a week, because maybe it's only 4 days a week, or maybe it's 6 days a week, whatever, right? Or most likely it's not, but you can negotiate with that. That's what I'm trying to say. And then, you know, like try to understand, because if it's out of work from home, then you have much lower costs for, you know, like commute and all that stuff. So you may want to, you know, like if they say, okay, you have to come to the office, if you can negotiate with them, you want to stay at home for whatever reason, that can also kind of, you know, like you can think of like all the different parts. I'm just giving totally random examples right now, but the reason you want to know that is to actually be able to come up with, because, you know, like this can come to the difference between 110 and 115, or 150 and 160,000, right? Like all the other parts, like, do you have a healthcare? Do you have a dental? Do you have whatever it is, right? So so all these things, so that's why I'm saying, like, if my me as an interviewer, I'm asking you, what's your salary expectation? My first thing is to say, great question, and in order to answer it well, we need to understand what other aspects do you consider in your compensation package. So what else can you offer in addition to the base salary? Does it make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I mean, okay, so one question. So does it make sense to start with a counter offer? Let's say I have offered from other companies, and let's say I have offered in the range of 110K to 140K, let's say. So is it a good practice to start saying that, hey, it's a good question. I interviewed at a couple of companies, and like looks like the offer they have, you know, the offer I got is in between the range of 110K to 140K. I'm flexible about it. I'm not very rigid about numbers, but we can talk. So I don't know, how is it? Like, what do you think?
When you say you're flexible about it and you're not rigid, my initial reaction is, so what else can convince you if it's not money? Right?
All right. Okay.
So you put yourself in a situation, okay, so then I will give you 110, but what else do you need to actually, you know, like to buy you? What else do I need to offer you to buy you?
All right, that's a good question.
Because if you have 110 and 140 on the table, why don't you just take 140?
Okay, maybe I care more about the culture of the company and what about the mission of the company. Yeah, that does matter, right? I mean, the kind of work I'll be doing, maybe a few thousands here and there won't matter much for me. Maybe, yeah, if the difference is more than like say 20K or 30K, it will. But let's say if the company, the culture also matters, like this company is very friendly, people are very good, and the work is really good and aligned with the goals, then I guess I might go even for a lower base salary than where I have more important, like where I have a better work-life balance than compared to a company where I'll be slogging for hours and hours. So I think that will be a very crucial factor, deciding factor.
So basically what I would say is like, hey, this is a great question, and you can leave it for later, the market research and all that. I would start from this, you know, like basically it's a great question, and in order to be able to better answer it, help me understand factors like whatever what the you know like company culture is, and then you're leading the question, right? Like leading the conversation. So you can try to get one of the reasons is you lead the conversation the moment you start asking questions. So it's very powerful. You show the leadership basically skills, right? You learn about you don't want to also ask dumb questions that you can check online. So if you know about the company culture, you don't want to ask this question. But I don't know what other questions would be important for you to actually find out. You have to come prepared again, know what questions you can't find online, but you want to ask, right? So what will actually make you decide? That you have to think, right? Because maybe this compensation package, or if you feel like, you know, like if it's like this compensation package doesn't really matter, you can actually, you know, like say, great question based on the market research and the offers that I have on the table from a few other companies. The average range starts from 110 to 140 and more. So you're opening up now, because if you say 110 to 140, they won't offer you more than 140, right? So what I did is I said the average based on the market research and the counter offers, the average for this type of job and the skills that I have and the industry, whatever, the average range starts from 110 to 140 and more. So you don't know if 140 is actually your top offer that you have on the table right now, or is it market research? You don't know that, right? So they can still offer you more, right? So you're giving yourself more options.
So is it a good practice to open the numbers yourself rather than, you know, they open the bracket, like you open your bracket as a first move? Is it better?
I think it's better for one reason. So basically what we always do is you will be giving much higher range than what you're shooting for, or that's your goal basically, and they will be giving you much lower. And if they place you in a much lower brackets, then it's very hard to actually bring them back up, right? Negotiating from higher price to lower is somewhat easier. So so you give yourself more options.
Got it. So like it as you said, like starting with based on my market research and, you know, the counter offers, and when they ask, I think the recruiter is the first person, they'll ask you that what are your expectations. I think that's a good opportunity to, you know, just disclose what's the range you have in mind, if I'm correct.
I think so, yes. It really depends also, again, like what was the conversation previously, but this is like when they ask you, okay, what's your salary expectation? I would either, if you still don't know what are the other, like if you have in mind very specific things that you want to learn before, like what other benefits do you have that actually come as a whole package, then you can start from the previous. That doesn't really matter. You can just be blunt and say, hey, so based on the market research and the counter offers that I got, it seems that, you know, like the average range for this type of you can even be like for this specific type of job. So the more specific you make it, the better, because it's much harder to actually, you know, like move the other person, has much harder time to actually give the counter argument. So you say, like starts from 110 up to 240 and more. How much flexibility do you have? You can just ask this question after that, right? Like, how much flexibility do you have? Or what do you think, right? You can just ask, what do you think? Leave how much flexibility do you have for later? So let's assume I said now, we're thinking of 130. What do you think?
I think it does fall in my expectation range, but I guess given the company and the growth you guys presented last year, I'm assuming it's a good number. Maybe if we can, go up to a bit higher range.
So you just said it's within your range, so you kind of agreed, and they just know that you will be fine with this.
But
right?
then, yeah, you're right. So how to go about it then? Like even if let's say company is willing to pay higher and you set a lower range for yourself, then I think.
What if you just say and just pause it there, and you just like like.
Yeah. Because you gave the number and they said, yeah, I mean, we are giving you 130 or so.
Is for the company, if company had a huge growth and stuff, 10,000 won't make a difference. And if you're a great employee, it's honestly, trust me, it's such a hard, it's a hard time to actually hire a good person. It's really difficult. And if you're a good fit, they need to find this 10K, honestly.
So what should you say then, even if how do you, what you should say next just to go higher from that number, which you already said?
So basically they haven't, you just gave them the range, right? And then they came back with 130, which is within your range, but you may want to test if there is more, because maybe there is not more, right? But you may may test if there is more, and you can say just, and just kind of, yeah, I need to think about it kind of face, right? And then if they really want you, they will say, well, I can check. So what will happen is the silence will make them speak, right? Like if you can keep this pause for long enough. And they may say, oh, I need to check with my manager if we can do anything more. And then, or if you save the question, if you didn't use this, how flexible do you think you are? You can say, 130, huh? Based on I don't know if you want to bring this back again, but let's just use it for now. Based on all the other counter offers that I got, 140 would be perfect. What type of flexibility do you have? You can even say 150, because then you will meet them in the middle. You can say, so based on all the other counter offers, 150 would be perfect, and I would just sign right away. What kind of flexibility do you have? And they potentially will say, well, we can give you that, or they can say, well, I need to speak to my manager, let me get back to you on that. But that gives you the opportunity to actually check the room for that. They may say, well, no, this is the maximum budget, the money that we budgeted for this job, right? They can say that too.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. We're a little bit over time. I would like to thank both of you, especially Basha for the amazing role play. But we have to actually end the webinar now because we're a little bit too much over time. But what we could do maybe is that everybody who's interested in continuing with Basha, you have her email address there. We're gonna also, it's actually already on YouTube, but you can also watch a replay to, remember the tricky magic phrases that Basha used, and you can do it, with your friends. And if you're all interested, maybe we can do something. Maybe we can, if you are interested, you can write in the chat so we can have another session. Maybe even fully on, most of it on role play. We can check that, and you can, if you want, just write it there, and we're gonna make sure that we find a way and we find time to do that.
I'm happy to do that again. So if you find it useful, just ping me, and we can either organize another webinar, or any one of you can ping me one-on-one. So thank you so much for
Thank you so much. So don't forget to register on actually our academy, Thousand Eyes on Me Academy. The address is academy.thousandeyeson.me. We're going to publish, more webinars, more events, and especially the replay of this. So you make sure you register to our social media channels. And yeah, that's all from my side. And I would love to thank you again, Basha, for all your time. Amazing insight you shared with us. I also noticed some of the phrases because it comes handy. And also for the volunteers who participated in the role play.
Yep, thank you for all the volunteers too, and for putting this together. That was a great opportunity and great to meet you all. So thank you for your time and for the trust.
Yeah, thank you so much. And see you very soon. And bye.
Bye.